Morning on my way into town, about 7 a.m., I could barely see the emerald length in front of my car. The fog was so heavy. I thought I was on the coast of Maine, and I'm like, but I made it to Holton, and it started to clear into an amazing, perhaps 80-degree day later on. So it's good to see everyone here. Everyone have a fan, a hand fan? I have extras here. I played last week. This started out.
You'll need one.
Linda, do you want to take a video? So, last week's coffee house. Okay, I'm not sure last week. People took the fans home and did not bring them back. That was not part of our policy, our summer fan policy. But hopefully. Okay, and if a person sitting next to you does not have a fan, you may have to check on their endurance service. At the coffee house, I had 2 people fanning me as I stopped by a table to chat. So I think this is going to be a great new summer tradition at Union Holton. On the altar this morning, you'll see Queen of the Prairie just blossomed this week in Linda's garden over to the left. There's a Unitarian daylilies are here. And on the support page, if you notice, I mentioned that stop, like as you enter the building, stop and smell the lilies. So this morning I was coming up the back stairwell with a bouquet of daylilies, and then I realized I stopped in the middle of the stairwell. They were right in my face, and I breathed in calmly, breathed out, and continued on my way. And it's just a glorious time of year. And this is something I discovered in Linda's garden. She planted this like 15 years ago, and it just blossomed maybe a little bit last year. There was just one little cluster, and I'm looking up the name. Astilbe. Just the most delicate little flower. So it's on our altar this morning, and the fleeting nature of life and to catch it while it occurs. Like a friend of mine on a wisteria backwoods blog this week, he said he planted his wisteria 20 years ago and it never blossomed. In my case, we had just the second or third time ours blossomed. So this is going to be a recurring theme in today's service, is brevity. You catch it while you can. For our centering this morning, you may have noticed we have a new crystal singing bowl down front. And we are going to sound the singing bell this morning. We have a whole series of instruments and singing gongs that come in during the course of the year. This is our first crystal. So Randy and Ira brought this in. Ira is going to assist me. He's been working on playing a singing bowl. So we're calling this kind of a short session of sonic therapy with sound, or vibrational attunement. So Ira, give us a demo.
Get it right. Just
Use the tonal quality of a crystal bowl to immerse yourself in a sound bath of quality. Focus on the sound. Follow the sound. Allow it to disperse and fade away. Repeat and do it again. Allow the sound to attune and center your body, mind, and energy. So when you're ready, Ira, as long as you want.
As long as it's go.
So thank you, Randy, for bringing that in today. And Randy said he'd like to try this during coffee hour. Come up and sound the bowl yourself. You really feel the vibration. Sonic therapy. Going to light our shadows. And I'd like to invite my good friend, Craig Vaietti. He's here with his family today. Come down, Craig. I'm going to guide you through this, okay? We'd like to chalice today for connection, for being here, whatever the reason. We are here looking for and hoping for a connection. each of us hold in common, perhaps, a connection to someone or a group of someone's who reflect back to you something you may or may not see in yourself, but you'd like to. We are here to try this out, to see how it works, and to try this together. By lighting this light, we see one light, but notice the reflection in us all. Behold the light. So for opening words, Linda and I visited Santosha Yoga Retreat in Kingfield, in western Maine last fall. Jenny Best Chang, owner and lead yoga teacher at Santosha, affectionately known as JB, would usually lead us in the morning yoga sessions. And after we finished the session, she'd say something like this: "This is the start of a new day, a day that we have never experienced before. So what are you going to do with it? It's up to you." This sounds quite obvious and rather cliche, but when JB said it, and after I had just pushed myself to my limit with more yoga than I had done in more than 6 months, it didn't sound like a cardboard standard. It hit home. There's a quote on our refrigerator door that I shared in this week's Backwoods blog by Henry Rollins, a performance artist from Black Flag. And he said, "There's no such thing as spare time. There's no such thing as free time. No such thing as downtime. All you have is lifetime. Go." Rollins felt that life is a moving target, and you had better hit it while you can, as often as you can. This is what I call a GPO, a grand pronouncement of the obvious. We all know that life comes at us one unit at a time, but oftentimes we do not act as if we do, or really keep close track of it, or make the most of it. So that is essentially our practice each day. A simple practice, but a most critical one. A grand pronouncement of the obvious. All you have is lifetime. Go. So with that, we are going to sing our opening song, 361. It's the best song I can find in a book to illustrate that. And it's called Enter, Rejoice, and Come In. And if you don't have a book, there's more up back. There's 5 verses to this song. There's 2 small ones on the bottom of the page, 4 and verse 5, 361. And we're going to stand as you're able and sing all verses, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In. Today will be a joy.
11:30. I was finishing my double chocolate ice cream, and I thought, I really should figure out what I'm going to talk about tonight.
He's been working on this.
Okay, so I've learned a lot since I've been here. I mean, y'all can probably tell just from Candle Hour how amazing it is to be in an environment of people that are willing to be open and vulnerable with themselves and with others. It's beautiful to witness people's souls, it's just amazing. You guys are such beautiful souls here. We're just blessed. So blessed. But my topic today is on witnessing. Get the words. There we go. And this is something that I always, wondered about personally because I was raised in the church. My dad is a pastor, and it comes up often, like, how do you witness to people? A few years ago, someone told me they came back from a mission trip in Peru, and a local person told them, I would rather my kid become an alcoholic than a Christian. And that really made me think, like, what are we witnessing? How do we discipleship? In Christianity, the way I grew up, I'm really curious about that. And the way that we do it here is quite amazing. And we all come from different backgrounds. We all come from different worldviews. And so when I was thinking, what am I going to talk about? These are the questions I asked. How can a church or a spiritual community with such a varied background of worldviews work? How can we as a spiritual organization and community where we want to support each other and encourage each other to grow, become our most authentic self? How does that work when we have such varied backgrounds, such varied worldviews? What is the one thing we can all do to improve our community? So we have this diversity, extreme diversity in here. We also have a community that really, really needs help. My oldest is about to start high school. I looked up the percentage because Maine does a survey every 2 years. I looked up the percentage of high schoolers in Maine that have depression. It's 49% of high school students think on a daily basis that they are unhappy, unfulfilled, and not content. That's a pretty large amount. So, do we need to help our community? Is there a need? Yeah. And we're here. So, is there a job to do? There is. What is the one thing we're all doing right now together as an audience? What y'all are doing for me right now, that's exactly what we're going to be doing for our community. Allowing someone else to be the subject. Allowing someone else to be important. Allowing someone else, you're witnessing their life, their growth. Amazing, beautiful stories every day. And how much do we pay to have that experience? How many people pay to go to a sports game? How many people pay to go to a museum, to go to a live poetry performance? Whatever it is, we're experiencing it right now for free. And it's beautiful. It's a gift. It's a blessing. Let's see if I can keep this rolling. This is us. This is the option that we have. When we are witnessing someone else's life, when we're witnessing someone grow, someone express themselves, someone, living their life, we have this as an option. We can be an excited, joyful audience member. Being a good witness is observing others and accepting them for the soul they are and not the karma they suffer. Observing with a focus on the other person and not the self, and allowing grace to intentionally be in the forefront of our actions, our emotions, and our thoughts. This is how I feel. This is an opinion that I want to live by. This is a purpose that I give myself. People have suffering in their life. They do. That suffering points them to where they need to grow. That suffering is not who they are. We should not look at people and think, oh, there is a crackhead. That that is suffering. That's not their soul. We embrace that here. It's beautiful. I get passionate. Being intentional is how we do this. It is really easy to have compulsive thoughts. Has anyone walked down or walked into Target and seen all the little cheap baubles and knickknacks? Why do they put those there? You know, what part of our life is compulsive? When we watch commercials on TV, why is marketing so powerful? How much of our life is intentional? Intentional is done on purpose, deliberate. How much of our life are we choosing to be deliberate? I once had someone say 95% of our thoughts today are the same thoughts we had yesterday. Being intentional is knowing what's going on and saying, I want that to be there. That's being intentional. So, can we move from compulsive thoughts, whereas in these things are happening, I really want to do this, I really want to do that, and we're part of a crowd and we're part of a community. Can we move from compulsive thoughts where we're just being controlled by marketing, by our software? We talked about Linux a few weeks ago. What's your malware? What's your software? What programming did you grow up in? And how can you make it intentional? Does that resonate with you? Is that who you want to be? So there was this really important guy someone told me about once, Dalai Lama. He said, an open heart is an open mind. That's a little quote. I don't know if you can see it up there. But our lives, our experiences, and relationships are as hard or gentle as our hearts, and as exciting as our imagination is free, as open to new growth as our minds allow. Witnessing. I understand why I am the way that I am, and accept my past with clarity, noting when my suffering caused others to suffer, and accepting the suffering others caused me with grace and understanding. Lead me not into temptation, but deliver me from evil. It's powerful. It's just words. But when you decide to believe intentionally, you put that information in your mind, and it's there, and you're thinking of it when you're witnessing someone live their life. It's a very powerful action, just as the picture illustrates that. Being intentional starts with honest observation of our hearts and minds, as well as reconnecting with the innocence of our inner child, who has carried the burden of our adult stress long enough, and should be given back the freedom of wonder and awe. I have been called an alpha male before. I was a gunnery sergeant in the Marine Corps. I can be very direct. I can be very strong. I can be very confrontational. But why do I need to do that? When do I need to do that? Do I need to do that all the time? Do I need to identify with my power and my ability to hurt people? No, that's a burden if I do that. That makes my life miserable if I do that. We are more than our past. We're more than our memories. We're more than our capabilities. We're so much deeper than that. And once you realize it about yourself, it's so easy to find it in somebody else. So here we have a picture, and I really wanted to illustrate that inner child. And we have this wiring. We have this framework, right? That we grow up in. And somebody, I have kids. I have so many kids. And my kids, they want to play. They want to have fun. And I'm like, you need to clean the kitchen up after you cook. And they're like, oh. And then I just keep wiring them up in this framework. Yes, fun is important, but steward your stuff, right? We provide that framework as we live around each other. We learn by reacting to each other. But not all of our framework is healthy. Some of our framework is defensive. Some of our framework is intentionally pushing other people away. When our inner child is crying for acceptance, crying for that awe of vulnerability and love, it's in there. But we repress it with our framework because we're scared. of that little guy getting hurt, or little girl. Be aware of that, and you can be intentional with it. None of this information is new or revolutionary. I've literally stolen every picture, every word from the internet. It's all out there. This is not my stuff, you guys. But it is a bit intense to think about, because once you discover your death, it's like, whoa. Is there a way to get past all the junk that makes us not get along? And if there is, maybe we should try it out.
Amen.
Okay, what gets in the way? I mean, that's a pretty simple illustration. What gets in the way? How often do we misunderstand each other? How often is our perspective, our thoughts, our mind that we dig, how much of that is not accurate just because of our perspective? You know what I mean? Hopefully you do, maybe you don't. Being a mirror with grace, so that when others look into your eyes, they can see their own soul being accepted, healed, and freed, separate from their compulsive behavior and karma, with free real estate available in the heart for the person behind the mind and the body. If you identify someone else, if you're looking at someone and you're like looking at their clothes, looking at their weight, looking at their height, looking at their gender, are you looking at them? What about their mind? What if you look at someone and you see a politician, a Democrat, a Republican? What if you look at someone and you see a small town redneck? What if you look at someone and you see a big city, God, whatever it is, whatever you're projecting, what do you see? Is it intentional? Why are you seeing that? And could you see more? If you remove that filter, if you stop that barrier, what would you see? Witnessing, this is really important to me, you guys. Witnessing is not, I see you and you suffer more than me, be like me and do as I do. Witness is me in my mind and think like me. Me and Jeremy are two different people. We have different pasts. We said this morning. We were talking before church. We have different histories. We have different minds. We have different defense mechanisms. And that's awesome. That diversity allows us to have very interesting conversations and a unique friendship if we don't get in each other's way. So what is it that stops this from happening? This is how I think witnessing should be. I see you with all my powers of observation and discernment, and accept what I see as another worthy child of God. That's just a fancy way of saying equality. Witnessing should be equal. If you are putting yourself before the person in front of you, that's not witnessing. You have an option, an opportunity to be available for someone, to watch them grow. If you make it about yourself, that's not happening. The ego can get in the way. I don't know if y'all have ever heard of the term ego. I think it's used every once in a while in our culture. Maybe a bit oversaturated. The ego can get in the way. It likes to be the subject of observation, and often gets very loud to get attention. How many people here know me? My ego can get very loud to get attention. But the ego is on the outside. It's our shield. It's the defense network of our social survival skills. How often do we use our ego as a shield or a weapon to keep other people away? That's dangerous. I'm not strong enough as a quality instrument on the inside to handle what's going on the outside. I'm going to create this boundary, this wall, this barrier, and I'm not going to know. My ego allows me to be ignorant of what's happening to that other person. affects our empathy. It wants you to see others in a certain way. It wants to be seen a certain way. It wants you to share your memories and opinions in a way that feeds it. I went to supper with some very interesting people a few weeks ago, and afterwards, as I was walking home with my wife, I said, wow, I was really insecure. And she was like, yeah, I can kind of tell. And I knew that. I knew that it was because I was talking about myself a lot. I was talking about my neighbors. I said, I did this, look how important I am. You know what I mean? And I made it less about what was happening and more about my past. A simple practice to understand this is being aware of how much we talk about ourselves and how honest we feel about our insecurities. A lot of people will identify with their suffering, and then will eat at them. And we could feed them better. Well, yeah. I don't know how to say that. So I'm just going to leave it. Maybe that'll be next week. Okay. Be truthful. Are insecurities influencing how life, opinions, and experiences are mirrored back at people? When someone makes eye contact, do I feel any fear, shame, or guilt? When I look into the mirror, and this is something Craig taught me, how do I feel about myself? If I look into the mirror and I'm ashamed of myself, what do you think other people are going to feel when they're talking to me? What do you think I'm going to be projecting to them? What kind of mirror am I? If we're bouncing this information back and forth, if we're sharing life together. So we're like a projector screen. Life is like the movie on the screen. It happens and it changes constantly. I'm not the same person today as I was 10 years ago, and that's okay. We're bouncing our projections back and forth between souls like a ping pong match. And I have some pretty cute little pictures up here. This guy's doing a dab. Well, maybe I shouldn't use that. There we go. There's another picture that says the observer, and it has different kind of ping pongs. It's a little face on the ping pong thing that sends the ball back and forth. It's just a cute analogy that I thought made sense for this subject. What do we not accept in others? Earlier I talked about observing with discernment. What do we not accept in others? Is there a line that we draw in the sand, like, well, that's not mutually beneficial, people, maybe we can do better. Maybe we can do better. And how do we share that? How do we make life more mutually beneficial, where both parties are being lifted up, and it's not like this? What behavior and opinions do we have a negative bias against? Before it even happens, we already know. We've already decided how we feel about it. Our bias is there, just like our ego. How do we feel about it? Are we honest? Do we know what our biases are? Or are they controlling us? Does it feed our compulsive thoughts? Okay. If any of this is spoken to you, or you feel like, well, I could use this tool. I could use this tool of being aware of how I interact with other people, how I'm feeling when I'm talking to them. If we use this as a tool, it's going to have explosive growth. If you have a conversation with someone and you embody grace while you're doing it, if you put grace in your heart for that other person, if you put grace in your thoughts while you're sharing these ideas, you're going to have explosive growth. They're going to be able to let go and grow. Once grace is happening, growth can become explosive. Being conscious of the process means we become masters of our minds instead of the mind being master over our hearts. Conscious growth becomes intentional growth. So what does that look like? I have here Kung Fu Panda. It's my favorite movie. And he's looking at the dragon scroll. So in this movie, there are thousands of Kung Fu scrolls, and one of the main bad guy in the movie has already read them all except for this one. And he's super strong, super powerful, and Poe has to beat him up, right? It's like, you're the bad guy, I'm the good guy. This is the only scroll Poe reads. The only one. And it's literally a reflection of himself. So, what does being intentional look like? I'm a father of 5 children. I am trying my best to be an intentional dad. I wear this on purpose. So when I look down and pick my kid up, I want to know, hey, this is here. I can be a super dad. It's in there. That's what being intentional means. Thank you, everyone, for listening to my talk. I look forward to talking to you later.
I could see a couple of weeks ago that Joshua had more to say than one segment would allow. So we're doing part 2 next week. We're going to do it again. But thank you, Joshua, for sharing. Thank you all for being here today. And now as we extinguish the chalice, may our lives be reflections of beauty, peace, and joy that is possible in this world. And may love that we find in this place sustain each of us as we go, each separate way. Let us go on with our days. Coffee hour. It's good to have been here. Thank you, Randy, Matt, for the offering today. Christoph, the cameraman, everyone who shared, especially sharing your heart. It's great to have all the kids here today.
We want to thank everybody for tuning in today. If you'd like to show your support, please hit the like button, subscribe to our channel if you're not already subscribed, and help us out by sharing this message by clicking the share button. If you'd like to make a monetary donation to you, Church Holton, there is a link to our online donations in the video description down below. And again, thank you so much and have a blessed day.